Hey guys, and welcome to Arcane Assist. This week, it's myself and Tim showing off some more Khador, one of the four archetypes, was it?
Yep, yeah, I said 4 archetypes in the original essay written on Arcane Assist. So last week we showed off the Old Witch in Legion of Steel, Legion of Steel being one of the major archetypes. This time we're showing off Jaws the Wolf. Specifically, I've talked to a couple of folks about how I feel Butcher3 is a really compelling Jaws the Wolf caster. Moreover, I think he's a really, really excellent Ghost Fleet answer. Pre-nerf Ghost Fleet is not without its nuance and its technicality, and I think Butcher has a lot of tools that can really make the yin and yang of that matchup really click. Evan and I talked about it at some length, so that I feel like we're both pretty well prepared for it, and he's going to show off some still pre-nerf Ghost Fleet because we're trying to show current content, but I think it is an interesting matchup nevertheless.
Yeah, so just going over what we've brought, I guess I'll go over my stuff first. I've brought Goreshade3 in the Ghost Fleet. His battle group is a Kraken. I have for solos Agrimony, who's a really cool new solo that I'm sure Tim would love to tell you all about because he's the Ghost Fleet expert, not me.
Yeah, she's one of the 12 Factions of Christmas releases. Crone of the Dying Strand. She gives Tactician Revenant. She's a 4-point model that counts as a Revenant, so she helps you qualify for the free solos. She can be free in the theme, but I like to use her as part of the qualifying points. She also has an RFP spell, Bone Shaker, and she can grant Sigil of Power. And then she's got a third spell that allows her to turn the area within 5 inches of her into shallow water for enemy models. Enemy living models, and they lose tough in that puddle.
Yeah, she's a really cool solo, especially useful in the mirror match because of Sigils of Power. So, other than that, we've got Rengrave and the Hellslinger free, as well as another Pistol Wraith, which is free. Thank you, theme benefits. Instead of a Wraith engine, because we have the Kraken taking up so many points, we have max Blackbanes and no cannon crew. Mm-hmm. But we still have the standard 3-min units with full rifles.
Yeah, it's a really good list. On the flip side of the table, I've got Butcher3, and I have a War Dog. In his battle group, he has 3 Marauders and a Juggernaut, as well as Ruin, so very, very jack heavy. He has Yuri for free, 2 free Greylord Forge Seers, one of whom is marshalling Behemoth, to give him that access to magical weapons and some of those cool Jack Marshall bonuses. I then also have 2 units of Eliminators. They're kind of the people who launch off with Silence of Death and really give some remove from play tools to the list. Yeah, it's really, really good. It has a lot of beef in it, and I think without further ado, we're going to jump right into the game here. So based on some of the feedback we got from last week, we are going to be showing off deployment for the game today. So you can see Evan's stuff out there on the tray here. We've got a little bit more sparse of a table than we often do. I think our trees got left aside.
Yeah. However, I think important to note, you won the die roll here.
I did, yes. I rolled a 6 and Evan rolled a 2 after the +1 to go first, so I won the die roll most definitively. That's a really big boon. Going first against Ghost Fleet's really strong. I think this list does have game even if it goes second, but it always is nice to go first. I'm deploying Butcher a little bit to the right, trying to put a lot of pressure on that right-hand zone. I think Evan definitely gave me a slightly more punitive side. I don't really love the way I'm going to kind of unpack into this bottom zone, and that forest is actually a little bit of a problem for my largely Pathfinderless army. I'm deploying Ruin max 12 inches away from Butcher. He's opposite that forest. I'm hoping that Evan gives me a Kraken to Boundless Charge, and I can make use of his Pathfinder as part of that bond. I deploy Eliminators top and bottom, and Yuri is going to advance deploy.
So my deployment's a little bit weird here because I have one thing that can take out heavies really, really well, and there's a couple of heavies that are more important than others to kill, like Behemoth and Ruin. However, Ruin's also the thing with the highest threat in Tim's list, which brings it to 13 with Energizer.
Yeah, 13 with Energizer.
So I out-threat it by an inch with Infernal Machine. So I have this weird game I'm going to have to play, a lot of cat and mouse with Ruin and the Kraken, but he has a lot more pieces that can just take out the Kraken, even if I win that trade against Ruin. So it's kind of weird. I decided to put Goreshade pretty centrally. I think that forest is going to really help me not get killed by Butcher.
Yeah.
And the Blackbanes are going to be around me. They're going to just be there because I think Goreshade's going to have a good time being able to maneuver around them. And he's not going to get boxed in because of their incorporeal. Rengrave and Agrimony are going to go down near this bottom zone along with 2 units of the Revenant crew. I think that 1 unit's going to be fine up top because it has support from the Kraken, and then 2 units are going to be able to do a good amount of attrition work in the bottom, basically just surviving as long as they possibly can, because it's going to be hard for them to kill Khador Jax, even with the help of Scything Touch.
I mean, there's a fairly impressive amount of armor cracking with just having access to Dark Shroud all the time, but you don't have something like Denegra's Feet. You can't just rip those pieces apart. Now, I've actually... this is a little bit weird because I played this matchup quite a bit against Denegra, but the yin and the yang of it is a little bit different. Against Denegra, I need to put a lot of pressure on, and I need to force that feat out early. And against Goreshade, I think that same kind of level of pressure can be actually kind of problematic for me. But I'm going to do my best. Butcher casts Energizer, moves all of the jacks up as aggressively as possible. He casts Silence to Death on Yuri, and he himself charges the Kraken, getting a little bit of extra threat range and making use of his own Relentless Charge to clear that wall. The dogs run. They're just going to run up into the zones and moving stuff up as quickly as I can. Butcher's camping 2. I'm going to run his War Dog such that I get +2 defense against melee. I'm not spectacularly worried that that's an issue this turn, but I am just trying to be in the habit of it. Yuri, who has Silence of Death and Stealth, is just going to really, really, really aggressively run right into the middle of that zone. I'm hoping that Evan gives me some good targets to Thresher so that I can RFP a whole bunch of those Revenant models. Silence of Death, of course, giving him Takedown and +2 Strength.
Yeah, that's a problem for me. Just Yuri being there either forces me to give him free Revenant models or forces me to completely stay out of his threat range. And neither of those are particularly good for me.
Yeah, I was going to say either one of those I'm fine with. The Marauder and Eliminators both head up this way. Ruin with Boundless Charge, charge the Kraken. It's exactly what I said he was going to do. It's exactly what he had the opportunity to do here. Behemoth did Hurry and just ran straight up. And the 2 Golden Lords stayed within 7 inches of Behemoth and just moved up a little bit conservatively.
So I have my Blackbanes apparate up just in front of Goreshade. Agrimony also apparates up a bit. Here I have to... I take a bit to think, because I know where I want my upkeeps out. Because I want Occultation to go on the Blackbanes so that they don't just all die to Behemoth immediately. Because he has a magic cannon in this list, thanks to the...
2 of them.
2, in fact, yes. Thanks to the Forge Seers. So Occultation forces him to drift, which is better than him just getting a free AoE 4 in the middle of my dudes exactly where he wants it.
Yep.
So I have to put Occultation there. Scything Touch is going to go on a Blackbane for now because I want Infernal Machine on the Kraken.
Sorry, you said Revenant.
Sorry, Revenant crew.
Yeah, you can't put it on one of the Blackbanes and also have Occultation on that unit.
Correct. I meant to say a Revenant crew.
Yeah, the Blackbanes are Revenants. The Revenants are not Blackbanes.
That's just great. So Blackbanes are going to run. I feel pretty threatened by Yuri, so I'm going to throw in some Blackbanes to... I know they don't block him from moving or line of sight or anything like that, but I feel like I can deny some places where he can land, which might let me move up a little bit further than I otherwise would have been able to with my Revenant crew. So they're there.
They're there.
The Kraken, I'm measuring to stay out of Ruin's threat range, but I have a good drift from the Harvester Cannon onto the Eliminators. Looking for an AoE. Can't find one, but it only moves 1 inch, so it clips an Eliminator.
Yeah, you're actually just short of the Eliminator, but you move an inch to the 6, so you still definitely clipper, and you boost damage and blow an Eliminator off the table. So that's great.
Yeah, and I'm okay with moving the Kraken pretty conservatively this turn because he's speed 7, so He's going to be able to get into whatever zone he needs to next turn, and he can stay out of Ruin's threat range this way.
And your goal is really just to get work out of the Kraken every turn.
Yes. And he got work done this turn. And now the method of, well, I guess I can't give Yuri anything, so I'm not going to. So I just stay out of 11 with all of my Revenant crew. They make a bit of a half moon here, and they say, Yuri, no.
Yeah,
you're not allowed.
He's managed to deny a really impressive amount of table space. The Blackbanes are keeping Evan sort of in the scenario and engaged in the game, but you've definitely chosen a very, very conservative method of unpacking, which I think actually might be the right answer here. I was taken aback by this initially, being like, well, I guess I'm just going to be able to have this whole zone. And then I thought to myself, well, not really.
Yeah. Because my plan was, well, he can't do anything to Blackbane's Ghost Raiders because he can't get magical weapons in any way, shape, or form. And Agrimony is going to be fine, so she'll just move on up into the trench, hopefully safe from some bombard shots. And then this top unit's not really threatened all that much. I guess I'll stay out of Ruin's threat range. I don't care about the single Eliminator if you want to put Silence of Death on her. That's just fine. Not that I think you can because you're so far into the middle of the table with Butcher. And I'll just stay over here and be fine and happy. And I flip it over to you.
Well, I got some decisions to make here. I debate up keeping Silence of Death. Eventually I decide to bail on it. My original plan when not upkeeping the spell was to cycle it over to the Eliminators, but during the course of the turn, that plan changed a little bit. Everybody powers up, save for Behemoth, who is Jack-marshaled, and Butcher keeps his 6. The Greylord Forge Seers just move up a little bit, and they give focus to Behemoth. We're going to do Behemoth first. I checked to see where my kind of ideal placement for targets is here. I know I'm going to scatter off of these Blackbanes, but I'm still looking to sort of pick the best one so that I'm, most drifts will do favorable things for me. Behemoth heads up, and he takes that shot. His 14 just above Blackbane.
Mm-hmm.
Shoots. He scatters a little bit.
Yeah, he scatters backwards.
Blackbane and one other guy. He boosts all the damage rolls because Behemoth. And kills Blackbane and one of the members of the Blackbane unit.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mistake for me to put Blackbane right up front and center and have him up so aggressively compared to the rest of the unit, because he could have easily just stayed back and kept everyone in command. But that said, there's not a huge amount of living models in Tim's army that I'm going to be able to create more Blackbanes out of anyway, so it's not a huge loss.
The second bombard shot scattered, boosted damage, only clipped one of the Blackbanes, but did not manage to kill him with the damage roll. Yuri runs behind the forest. He is a tree walker, so he can actually see through that forest. And he cannot be seen through the forest, so he's actually pretty happy there. Dogs move up, tow both zones. Butcher's just going to run. He runs pretty centrally. I debate a couple of places for him to be. I decide that he can be up pretty aggressively. This is a bit of an interesting choice, and my rationale here with Butcher being quite as far up the board as he is I'm camping a fair bit, so I feel like I can kind of pressure with my tanky stat line. And despite having a lot of tools for the matchup, Butcher does need to personally do work at some point here. I'm going to need to come in and RFP pieces. I can't let Goreshade come up and kind of do a lot of the work himself, because I really want to keep bullying him back on the table. And as soon as Evan sends that Kraken in to deal with one or two of my heavies, I need Butcher to be able to retaliate and help finish the Kraken. So that's the justification for his position on the table. He probably could be a little bit further back than what he is right now on reflection. If he'd done that, I imagine he could have cast Energizer this turn rather than running to be in the position that he's in.
So Tim's given me a weird predicament here. He's run Yuri back, so I don't get Yuri this turn. And he has stealth, so I definitely don't, because my ghost shot doesn't ignore that. But Butcher's pretty far up, and the Kraken with Infernal Machine can charge a Juggernaut, use that arc use the arc that won't be in Butcher's side to use the charge attack on the Juggernaut, and then use the rest of his attacks on the Butcher. And the Butcher can be stationaried by my feet, and I can have Scything Touch from the Pistol Wraith. And even after all of those things, it doesn't, like, it's, the math says I don't kill him. But I still think I'm likely to do a ton of damage, and if I get in such a position that I don't get killed by the Butcher, which isn't as hard because he doesn't get Vengeance because he'll be stationary. Or he does get it, but he can't move, which is nice. I'm safe from that, and then I get another shot at killing him when he has much reduced, well, a ton of, so many fewer boxes than he normally would. It's kind of a two-wave assassination.
Yeah, I think your goal here is to just put a whole bunch of damage into Butcher and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that seems pretty good as long as you don't have to go all in for it. You talked about, I thought this was kind of a cute play, putting Scything Touch on the Pistol Wraith. The Pistol Wraith doesn't have a lot of great shots right now, and you really want to make sure you make use of your ghost shots, and you're probably going to have to run your Blackbanes to be the things you pop for the stationary. So I was like, oh, well, normally you put Scything Touch on one of the Blackbanes, and now you won't be able to because you run them in and freeze them, and you're like, oh, I'll put Scything Touch on the Pistol Wraith, and he'll run in with his Gunfighter and tag Butcher. And I was like, oh, that's actually pretty smart because he's not actually doing anything else this turn.
Yeah, it helps.
So was it the green unit there who activated? They moved up and shot the Marauder?
Yes, so the green unit was not in threat range of Butcher anyways, so regardless of whether or not anything else happened, they could move up and do some, like, they just took some pot shots at the Marauder, see what they could do. They didn't do any damage. Because I was also thinking that if I did any damage to that Marauder, then the math for the Kraken killing it is better. But, like, that doesn't happen, so I decide instead of killing this Marauder, I'm going to actually just continue on with the plan that is maybe kill the Butcher.
Yeah, I mean, we both walked into this being like, this isn't going to kill the Butcher, but who knows? Maybe it'll kill something, right? Like, maybe it'll just do a bunch of work to him. And one of the things that I really like about the Butcher in this matchup is how personally durable he is, like how much he can kind of weather that assassination. I'm a little further up than I would normally be against an Agra, so I'm kind of sort of saying, like, can you do it? Like, what's your plan here? And if Evan can take away some of that durability stat from the Butcher, it's a lot more challenging for me.
Yeah, and unfortunately in this list, I don't have an arc node, so I can't use Siphon Bolt to get rid of any of your focus. So you are really just like a 50 health Butcher. Yeah,
I'm camping 6 focus. That's it's helping me out right now.
Yeah, it's basically 30 extra boxes.
Yeah, there's not a lot of line of sight to me, but I didn't actually think about the vector of the Kraken charging the Juggernaut and then just happening to get the 4-inch reach on him. I probably could have looked at that, but I did not.
Yeah. Takes me a while to commit to this just because I'm like, does this cost me the game if I just lose the Kraken here? And it takes a huge amount of armor cracking out of my list. It's basically the only real, like, heavy-hitting armor-piercing or armor-cracking piece in the list. Here I'm measuring to see if Goreshade can actually, if he gets and charges something or just walks into the forest, can see. The forest is like literally 2 millimeters too deep for me to see through the forest and Siphon Bolt Butcher.
Yeah, one Siphon Bolt here would change the math in a really big way, I think.
Yes, because you probably have to reduce damage from that, and I'd steal a focus.
Mm-hmm.
That basically gets rid of 10 health and maybe does more damage.
Yep.
So the Blackbanes are going in. 2 of them charge an Eliminator. 1 of them runs to engage the Butcher. 2 of them charge a dog. 1 of them charges the Marauder. The purpose of the one charging the Marauder is basically next turn you have to deal with this instead of just being able to charge at anything you want.
Lights on fire, too.
That too. Days off 8's not going to do a whole lot, but,
Sometimes you spike.
Sometimes you spike. Roll dice. Roll dice at Eliminator. Or, sorry, this is at the dog. I leave it on 2 boxes. Then I kill the Eliminator. Yep, dog's on fire.
One of those handy double-sided fire corrosion tokens down.
Yeah. And I have some incorporeal guys in the back line ready to do what they need to do when they're, called upon to do it.
Yeah, something like that. And, of course, you've got a guy next to Butcher and Yuri, which I think you're planning to pop at the feet.
Yep. Basically, he'll get stationary the Juggernaut, Yuri, and the Butcher.
It's pretty good.
So I activate Goreshade. I'm like, you know what? Just as a don't screw up measure, I'm going to back up a bit and stay just out of kill box. And, there's no way you kill me now.
Smart move.
So I blow up 2 Blackbanes. I stationary 4 models. It's a pretty small feat for Goreshade, but I think it's really effective.
I think feeding to kill or to stationary a caster is totally worth it.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. And incidentally, you happen to stationary Yuri, which is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Scything Touched Pistol Wraith runs in now. So you allocated 2 to the Kraken, upkept Infernal Machine, cast Scything Touch for 2. That's 5. You're on, 2 for camp now?
Yes. I could have Mockery of Life to Blackbane, but I didn't. Again, just safety precaution. Butcher can sometimes randomly kill you, so I decided I didn't want that to happen. These Revenant crew models continue to go and do CRAs. First guy I did a couple of damage. Second guy hits, rolls all right, does 4 damage.
Yeah, so that's the...
1 damage after reduction.
Yeah, would have been 6 because I'm armor 16 now, so you guys have 3.
Math.
Because of Scything Touch.
Yeah, and the first one would have been 5 damage, but you reduced it to 0.
So I've spent 2 of those focus. Kraken charges the Juggernaut, manages to hit.
Cripple an arm.
Does a ton of damage to a Juggernaut, takes out his right arm, which is exactly the right thing to do.
And then he just starts swinging. So he's auto-hitting the Butcher.
Yep.
He's at dice plus 3.
And rolls average so far.
Yep.
6 and an 8. And third die rolls
also a 6.
Plus 3 is 9. Reduced takes 4 damage. Butcher is still alive. Has, 5 boxes left? 4 boxes?
Yep. So it's about as much damage as we were expecting. Leaves the Butcher alive with about a quarter of his health, which means he can't get anywhere near as aggressive as he'd like to in future turns. I decide, hey, I have a couple more attacks. Might as well try throwing them in on it. Rengrave goes, shoots the dog to make way for Agrimony to throw a Bone Shaker at the Butcher.
Kills a dog. You're a dog killer, Evan. You know that's what that makes
Look,
you.
there are too many dogs in this game for me not to have to do that.
Oh, that's so harsh. Too many dogs. You're trying to thin the herd, eh?
If you don't want to see dead dogs, don't put dogs on the table.
Agrimony does no damage once I spend a focus to reduce.
Correct.
So Butcher is stationary on no focus and 4 boxes. But I think you're running out of things in the tank.
Yeah, the Cane Slinger is out by about 2 inches, so he can't quite get onto the Butcher, and anything he would swift under off of is stealth, so that's not a plan either.
Correct.
So that's my turn. What is your retaliation, Tim?
It's a bit of a problem. I have to kill a Kraken, and I have to respect Goreshade's threat, plus some of those ghost shots that are going to maybe do some work against me. Butcher does not get to Vengeance, which is a bit awkward because he is currently stationary. I do Vengeance in with the dog. It just gets a little bit closer. I actually kind of use the dog poorly this turn a little bit, I think. I'm trying to allocate my resources well. It's definitely going to be a feat turn for me because I'd like to have a lot of attacks. I definitely need to finish that Kraken. While I'm at it, I might as well finish the Pistol Wraith. And I'd like to get Butcher to a place of some relative safety. So Golden Lord activates first, walks up, stabs a Blackbane. He actually misses his attack roll here. I thought about just trying to get some extra attrition value out of him, kill one of the Blackbanes, and then Battle Wizard, a Power Boost or a Hoarfrost. Probably getting a little greedy in that line of play. Should have just powered up the Behemoth and done what he does. The Eliminators sidesteps and kills a couple of Blackbanes in the back arc. Marauder activates, walks over, kills 2 more Blackbanes, clears them off a little bit. So I'm just trying to get positive attrition value out of this turn. The Golden Lord here, who's marshalling Behemoth, powers up Behemoth. Behemoth will aim and
Strike true.
Yep, strike true. So he goes up to Rat 8. He shoots Agrimony, boosting, kills her, but only just. And then blast damage. He kills both the other 2 Blackbanes. So I mean that's fine. Gets rid of another solo on Evan's side of the board. Removes a kind of a key piece. Second shot, he just takes it into the Kraken and does, I think, 1 point of damage. Not much, but that's okay. He didn't have a focus to boost that one. Juggernaut activates. Just kind of walks a little bit out of the way, so there's room for Ruin to charge. Get in there. He's got a crippled fist, so he doesn't really do much. Or sorry, a crippled arm. The axe arm doesn't do much damage there. Just a couple of points.
Yeah. Didn't help that you missed with the axe. Butcher's going to go in.
Yeah, Butcher is going to make a Flashing Blade attack, kill both the Pistol Wraith, and put a bunch of damage into the Kraken.
And give Goreshade Spell Siphon?
Spell Vortex.
Spell Vortex.
Yeah, so Goreshade gets to cast a spell for free next turn. So Butcher makes his second attack. And he made his initial on the Kraken, did a bunch of damage, and then started casting some more Flashing Blades. As I mentioned, I'm definitely going to feat this turn. Roll a little underwhelmingly. It takes Butcher a few more attacks to do this than I would have liked him to have done. So he puts a bunch of damage into the Kraken. I think at this point cycles over to your other side. Not by much. I just confirmed the range on Spell Vortex. So I've finished one side of the Kraken. Butcher buys another attack and puts a bunch more damage into you.
Yep, he's working on that Kraken, but he decides to use the last 3 focus to heal him. Oh, sorry, he feats cast Energizer.
Yep.
And he uses a bunch of focus to heal himself, right?
Yeah, I energize her in, and I put myself in a position. I actually should have probably moved the dog first when I moved Butcher, so that it could make an attack before Energizer and get the benefit of the gang bonus. Because the dog on its own might have actually finished the Kraken, or at least done enough more that the Jacks would finish it, should I say. But Butcher backs up, and this would have been a perfectly reasonable time to use that dog again, and I just totally didn't. And I debate what I want to heal for here. I think about camping 3. In the situation where I camp 3, I've got 1 for each of the CRAs that are going to come into me, which at this point I think do need to CRA because they still need to hit me. And I ultimately decide that I'm too afraid of Siphon Bolt for that. So I spend all 3 to heal. And I take Butcher up to 7 boxes. And I'm just hoping to try to create some distance and create some space and just tank those ghost shot attacks. If I'd done a little bit more measurement here, I'd probably see that I think it'd be quite challenging for Goreshade to actually get that Siphon Bolt vector on me with the way the forest is positioned. Maybe it'd be better to camp those. It's sort of a little bit tough to say, but I make the choice, and I charge the Marauder in, who with Energizer is now in a position to get into range. It makes single attacks and does manage to do a bunch of damage to the Kraken. The War Dog at this point charges the Kraken and finishes it with its charge attack. The War Dog now returns and hangs out next to Butcher. All right, so that's actually really important because that Marauder had to come out of that zone, which means I want to send Ruin into it. So Ruin charges boundlessly across the rubble, and he knocks out one of the guys in this green unit here. He also has a big presence with his 2-inch melee range, so he's denying a lot of space to those guys to advance. I think they're probably going to be fine just backing up or staying where they are and shooting at Butcher, but we're still going to make some attacks. The Eliminator moves in here, kills one with a charge attack, sidesteps, kills another one. Just I'm trying to take enough of them off the board that Evan doesn't necessarily return them all with his die roll. Get a little bit of positive attrition value against them.
I got them all back anyway.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it happens.
So, I'm looking at this, and I think it's very interesting that Tim decided to heal as opposed to camp. But I decided to look for an angle for Siphon Bolt anyway. So you're going to see in a little bit here some measuring on Goreshade. If I charge that Juggernaut and tow into the forest, do I get 3 inches? Again, this forest is going to be my foil for this match, as it's just like millimeters to see through that forest and at Butcher. Thinking back on it now, I might have been able to just charge that Juggernaut, get far enough into it that I can kill it and get line of sight to Butcher that way. But that's using some of my focus and is getting a little closer to the Butcher than I'd like.
Despite the fact that Juggernaut is missing an arm, it actually hasn't taken a ton of damage.
No.
It took
12.
12 damage. So it still has 22 boxes.
Yeah.
And for Goreshade to do that, he probably needs to spend most of his focus.
Yeah.
And it'd be
Not great.
Tough probably to find a Siphon Bolt, at least space for a Siphon Bolt in there.
Mm-hmm. However, I still have some CRAs, so I'm going to do them.
You're doing, I think, the Caneslinger first, right?
Yes, the Caneslinger now has the range to actually get there because I moved him closer last turn. He does a fire shot followed by a Grievous Wounds shot. He doesn't get the crit Grievous Wounds, but he does set him on fire. I think he does 1 point, which is pretty significant.
Yeah, dice -6 because you don't have a Scything Tension on me this time. Without being able to stationary me, you'd rather have the ability to CRA. We make some shots.
These are just pistol shots into the Marauder. Don't do any damage. CRA into Butcher hits and does, I believe it's dice off 5 is 1 point.
1 point is 1 point. It's, again, maybe I'd have been better off to camp that focus. I wasn't kind of maybe attentive enough to what Goreshade's vectors into me would be, and that's certainly something that we could pre-measure in this context. But I do take another CRA shot.
This one does way better.
A 9, so it does 4 more damage. This point I've taken 5. I have at this point 2 boxes left.
Take more pistol shots and stuff. Rengrave's going to try to shoot another dog. This time he fails and doesn't do enough damage to kill it. And then the green unit's going to go. They're going to move up. A couple of them are going to engage Ruin. The rifles are going to stay out of his 2 inches, but in 14 of the Butcher. They have plenty of room for that. And then they do their CRA. They need to do 2 damage. They do well over 2 damage. And Butcher fails his tough check. And that's the game.
That's the game. Obviously, I think it would have been the right call to camp 3 here.
Yes.
I measure that Siphon Bolt range, know about that vector. In a situation where I camp 3 there, you're down a Kraken. I've got a bunch of high armor pieces left in the zone. Butcher continues to back off, stay a little bit strategic, and heal a couple every turn. And we have, I think, a very, very favorable for Khador mid to late game.
Yes.
A lot, I think, of the nuance of this particular list is knowing your opponent, knowing your enemy really, really well, understanding their list, and, of course, not kind of messing up your positioning. I think more than any other Khador list, Jaws the Wolf is a positioning list. And
yes.
Butcher can be a pretty forgiving caster for that sometimes, but he can die if you let him.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially when you have so few pieces, it's really important to get the positioning for those down. But then again, they're all terrifying Arm 20 Khador jacks that beat the crap out of you. So
Sure, and the Marauders are very, very powerful against things like, obviously, a Kraken.
Yeah.
It's a good opponent for them. Now, the Kraken outmaneuvers them, as you saw. Evan was able to kite most of the Marauders very effectively, but even getting 1 on them is enough to do a ton of damage.
Yeah. So I think that's it for us, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to follow us on all of the social media, Facebook, Twitter, etc., and we will see you guys next time.